Okay. Good evening. I'd like to call the City of North Augusta City Council meeting for October 21st, 2024 to order. It's great to see everybody. Thank y'all for being here. At this time, if you would like, you can join me for a prayer. Dear God, thank you for our blessings as a community. You have held us during the last few weeks as we have dealt with the aftermath of Hurricane Helene. You've given us what was needed by this community as work was done to restore power. Now more work begins with the debris cleanup. Please give this council discernment as we make decisions in this next phase. Please be with the community as we continue to stand together during this recovery. At the end of the day, we will give you all the praise and glory. Amen. If you're able, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. All right, we'll start roll call from my left.
Eric Presnell.
Pat Carpenter.
Britton Williams.
Jennifer McCauley.
David Buck.
Kevin Toole.
Item 4, approval of minutes. Are there any corrections, deletions, or additions to the regular City Council meeting minutes of September the 16th, 2024, the regular City Council meeting minutes of October the 7th, 2024, or the study session minutes of October the 14th, 2024? Hearing none, they stand approved as distributed. Thank you. Okay. Sean Dantzler is, let me see, Sean Dantzler is the South Carolina Governor's Counter Drug Task Force Manager, and he reached out to us today, and this week is Red Ribbon Week, and I'm just going to read a proclamation that we have sent to him, so I'll just read this. Whereas alcohol and drug abuse affect individuals, families, and communities across the nation, and whereas it's imperative that visible, unified efforts by community members be launched to prevent drug abuse, whereas Red Ribbon Week offers citizens the opportunity to demonstrate their commitment to drug-free lifestyles, whereas Red Ribbon Week will be celebrated in communities across the nation on October the 23rd through the 31st, and whereas businesses, government, law enforcement, media, healthcare providers, religious institutions, schools, and other community-based organizations will demonstrate their commitment to healthy, drug-free lifestyles by wearing red ribbons and participating in drug prevention activities. Whereas the City of North Augusta further commits its resources to ensure the success of Red Ribbon Week. Now, therefore, I, Britton S. Williams, Mayor of the City of North Augusta, South Carolina, do hereby proclaim the week October 23rd through October 31st, 2024 as Red Ribbon Week in the City of North Augusta, and I urge all citizens to participate in drug prevention education activities, not only during this week, but also throughout the year, making a visible statement that we are strongly committed to a drug-free lifestyle. So I wanted to read that.
And I said, Mayor, I wasn't going to say anything, but one thing.
Okay, you're not.
It would be nice if we would, you know how they put the ribbons on the poles? If we maybe next year put red ribbons on the downtown poles. Because the schools, they wear decorate and do all that.
Jamie's taking notes every time. Okay. All right. Item 5. We have retirement. I'm going to kind of read a little bit about this young lady. She's not here, but a lot of y'all may know her. Her name is Mamie Anderson. And for the last, I guess, 23 and a half years, she had done a remarkable job. She's been the Hammond Hill Elementary School crossing guard. And if I'm not mistaken, she's on the Bunting Avenue side. That's first grade, if I'm not mistaken. So her dedication, warmth, and commitment have made a profound impact on everyone she encountered. Mamie's commitment to her role went beyond just her presence at the crosswalk. She was known for always being on time, which is very important, regardless of the weather, and for her reliability that gave our children and families peace of mind each day. Mamie was never one to complain and took great pride in her work, finding joy in each day and each child she helped cross safely. One of Mamie's most outstanding qualities was her ability to build relationships. She developed genuine connections with the kids and families, greeted everyone with a smile and cheerful attitude. Her excellent communication skills and friendly demeanor made her a beloved figure at the crossing within the public safety department. Her presence will be deeply missed. Mamie truly loved her job, and it showed in the way she performed her duties with happiness, reliability, and a smile that brightened everyone's day. The North Augusta community is grateful for her faithful service and countless lives she has touched over the years. We thank Mamie for her unwavering dedication and wish all the best in her future endeavors. She leaves behind a legacy of kindness, joy, unwavering commitment that will be remembered fondly by all who had the pleasure of knowing her. It is with heartfelt gratitude that we present this award to Mamie Anderson for her dedication to her city of North Augusta, and we will be giving that to her. I hate that she couldn't be here, but I think that is commendable. And all y'all, if you're kids, you probably remember your crossing guard. It was Miss Peggy for me at elementary school. So anyway, Miss Anderson, thank you, Mamie, for your service to so many kids and families in our community. Well done, and enjoy your retirement. Okay, we're going to jump right into old business. Item 6, planning and development. Ordinance number 2024-22 to change the corporate limits of the city of North Augusta by accepting the petition requesting annexation by the landowners and annexing plus or minus 36.053 acres of property located at 381 Laurel Lake Drive and owned by Baranowski Investment Company, LLC. Do I have a motion to approve this ordinance on second reading? Ms. Carpenter, is there a second? Mr. Presnell, thank you. Anyone want to share about this, Mr. Clifford?
Yes, Mr. Mayor and Council. These two items, items 6 and 7, ordinance numbers 2024-22 and ordinance number 2024-23 are linked. They go with the same action. And so ultimately, what has been requested here is an annexation for two properties. This first ordinance being the larger of the two at 36 acres, second one being about 2.5. To change the city limits for 381 Laurel Lake Drive. And the intention for this is to annex into the city and be zoned thoroughfare commercial for business logistics depot that have some truck traffic that would come through there. At that location, the staff recommends that you move forward with this, and the city council, I believe, voted unanimously in its favor of the first reading. I have no other updates for the council at this time.
Okay. Are there any citizen comments? Any council discussion? All right, here none. I'll ask for a vote. All in favor? That is unanimous. Thank you. And item 7, planning and development ordinance number 2024-23 to change the corporate limits of the city of North Augusta by accepting the petition requesting annexation by the landowners and annexing plus or minus 2.44 acres of property located at 210 Twin Hills Road and owned by Wesley E. Doolittle. Do I have a motion to approve this ordinance on second reading?
So moved.
Ms. McCauley, is there a second? All right, Ms. Presnell. And Ms. Clifford's already shared this. This piggybacks off item 6. So not going to need to talk to him about that. Any citizen comments on this? All right, any council discussion? If not, we'll ask for a vote. All in favor? And that also is unanimous. Thank you very much. All right, that was all the old business. Now we move into new business. Item 8. Resolution number 2024-45, authorizing a request to the South Carolina Department of Transportation for removal of a portion of East Pine Grove Avenue from the state highway system and the acceptance of ownership and maintenance responsibilities of said road by the city of North Augusta, South Carolina, and authorizing the execution and recordation of certain documents in connection therewith. Do I have a motion to approve this resolution?
So moved.
All right, Mr. Buck, thank you. Second, Ms. Carpenter. Anything you'd like to share about that, Mr. Clifford?
Mr. Mayor, no changes from last week, just to say that there are some benefits to having certain roads being owned and maintained by the city as opposed to SCDOT. There's still a lot of benefit to having SCDOT ownership and maintenance of roads. However, in our downtown corridor, specifically with some of the things we're trying to do with crosswalks and amenities there within the downtown corridor, the Director of Public Works felt this would be better suited as a city-owned road, and it's a pretty small portion. And our request is for you to consider this for action.
Very good. Any citizen comments? Any council discussion? All right, good. All right, I'm going to ask for a vote. All in favor? That's unanimous. Thank you very much. Okay. Item 9, Parks and Recreation, Resolution Number 2024-46, authorizing the City of North Augusta to enter into a contract with Kendrick's Construction for the Riverview Park dugout replacements, Field 3. Do I have a motion to approve this resolution?
So moved.
Ms. McCauley?
Second.
Mr. Toole, thank you, sir. Anything you want to share about this, Mr. Clifford?
I know there was some discussion on this between Councilman Carpenter and our Director of Parks and Recreation, Rick Meyer, which I think answered most of the questions about this, but this is simply a low bid contract. Kendrick's was the low bid, and this would allow us to move forward with doing the dugout replacements at Field 3.
Okay. Any citizen comments? Council discussion? All right, here now, I'll ask for a vote. All in favor? That is unanimous. Thank you. Planning, number 10, Planning and Development, Resolution Number 2024-47, accepting a deed of dedication for the street, sanitary sewer, stormwater collection, fire suppression systems, detention pond, and associated easements and rights of way, along with a maintenance guarantee and letter of credit for Rushing Waters Phase 3. Do I have a motion to approve this resolution? Ms. Carpenter, is there a second? Second. All right, personnel, thank you. Anything you'd like to share about this, Mr. Clifford?
So to orient you to the location, Rushing Waters is a development that is now fully connected between the 5 Notch Road there just north of Mossy Creek and just south of Interstate 20, and is now extending all the way into the back of Belvedere on not too far off Route 25, so you can access the neighborhood through 2 different areas. And so Phase 3 is the backside of that neighborhood. So if you drove all the way through Rushing Waters from the 5 Notch Road entrance and got all the way into the back of that neighborhood, you go down to the stormwater project that I demonstrated with Tom Strickland previously with all the rock that's down there. And on the back side of that, going up through a couple of terraces, is the remainder of Rushing Waters. And this is for us to do a deed of dedication for the infrastructure associated with that portion. And our staff recommendation is to move forward with an approval.
And just for our citizens, this is standard. We do this with all our new subdivisions, so it's not new. Yeah, it's what we do. I'll just control it a little better. Okay. Are there any citizen comments? Any council discussion? All right, here now, I'll ask for a vote. All in favor? All right, all unanimous, approved. Thank you. Item 11, Public Services, Resolution Number 2024-48, approving the Greenway Landscape Enhancement Hardscape Project. Do you have a motion to approve this resolution?
So moved.
Ms. McCauley, is there a second?
I'll second.
Well, thank you. Anything you'd like to share about this, Mr. Clifford? Or
I'll take a first swing at it, and JD can fill in the gaps if I miss something. And so ultimately, this is a collection of projects, if you will, to make improvements off the Greenway and their connectors, so one of which being to the Hammond Hills bathroom facility and another being on the Bluff Avenue connector, which was recently completed. And again, the intention is to lower the overall maintenance requirements from grass. And you see through our downtown corridor, you have a lot of aspects that have brick in between the sidewalk and the curb. And that's a lot of what we're trying to accomplish with this resolution. The other thing this does is it fully exhausts Capital Project Sales Tax 3. So we're able to, if this action is approved, move forward so that all CPST 1, 2, and 3 have been fully utilized and will be operating off CPST 4 exclusively, which is what the current tax draw is today.
do we have any idea of the time frame with everything we've got going on as far as being able to start this, how far out this will go?
I would defer to JD.
There's so much stuff on Bluff, I just didn't know.
There's actually no delay at the moment because where these projects, if you look at the RFP, we've attached some addendums here, where majority of this project is located and going to take place. We are in good shape to begin as soon as we can get crews mobilized.
This will be a great project. Okay, very good. Thank you. Any citizen comments? Council discussion. Here now, I ask for a vote. All in favor? All right, that's unanimous. Thank you. Item 12, Administration Resolution Number 2024-49, authorizing a noise permit for government and private contracted crews to remove storm debris and conduct repairs related to Hurricane Helene. Do I have a motion to approve this resolution?
So moved.
Mr. Toole, is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Buck, thank you. Anything you'd like to share about this, Mr. Clifford?
Yeah, I'll take, Mr. Mayor, I'll take a moment with you and the council and our citizens on this because this was I don't think fully discussed at the study session. So in our discussion with a number of the contractors and also their city crews and discussing how we were going to get into storm cleanup, and that'll be the focus for my administrative report this evening, we wanted to give ourselves the maximum amount of flexibility and also to our citizens to allow for cleanup of hurricane debris over the next several months. And so our current Code of Ordinances only allows for construction work in the hours of 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. And you could probably make an argument that what this is not construction work, but just on the off chance that somebody would consider it that way, we wanted to make sure that the city crews, that individuals, and also the contracted crews, both from SCDOT and from the city and from the county, have the ability to work during sunrise to sunset every single day, 7 days a week, for a period of 180 days, which would start on the 21st of October and ends on the 19th of April. We believe that gives us ample time to be able to conduct our cleanup activities. I'm certainly hoping it's not going to take us a full 6 months, but I want to make sure that if we have pockets we have to get after that take longer, that we have the ability to have that flexibility to do so. And so the spirit of this is to allow us to maximize work hours on our debris cleanup. And this is really the first action that we brought to council for an actual council action to assist with the cleanup. And we'd ask you to consider this resolution moving forward, or this ordinance moving forward. Resolution, I stand corrected.
Any questions from Mr. Clifford from y'all? Okay. Are there any citizen comments concerning this? Any council discussion? Okay. Here now, I ask for a vote. All in favor? All right. Very good. Thank you. Item 13, resolution number 2024-50, approving a contract for the city of North Augusta to partner with Aiken County for Hurricane Helene debris removal. Do I have a motion to approve this resolution?
So moved.
Ms. McCauley, second. Ms. Carpenter, thank you. Anything you'd like to share about this, sir?
Well, I'll defer to Jamie and Kelly on the actual language of this, but ultimately I'd ask for this as a placeholder to be able to do a contract if required. But at the end of the day, based on our Code of Ordinances and the ability to conduct an emergency contracting action and also being able to enter into an intergovernmental agreement with Aiken County seems to negate the requirement for us to do a city council action. I just wanted to have this here that if we had to do it, that we could do it, but I don't believe that's required at this point in time.
Okay.
So I don't know if that gets tabled, Jamie, or if that gets voted down, or how they work that.
Or is he pulling it? Or how's that work?
Well, due to the fact that you have read it, and so we would have to table it if you think it'll come back up again.
I think just from a flexibility perspective, I think it makes sense to table this action, and we can pull it off the table if we need it in the next several sessions. I move to.
Motion to table. I'll make a motion to table.
Okay, Ms. McCauley, is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Toole, okay. Any discussion on that? All right, all in favor of tabling this resolution? That's unanimous. Okay, thank you. And let me just say this, just because I know there's some folks out here we haven't normally seen. I know it looks like we went through these pretty quick. What we implemented about 3.5 years ago was we do a study session the week prior to every city council meeting. And it's that study session is where our city administrator, our staff, they present and go over these different items. It gives us an opportunity to ask questions, have follow-up. That way for citizens to see it a week early, so we need to be aware of it. So often when it does come to this point, most of our questions have been answered. We have had deep discussion. So I just want to let you know we are going through this fast, but the reality is all of the hard work, quite frankly, was done last week on one of these. We had a study session last month about. So anyway, just wanted to kind of get that out there for folks. All right, at this point, for administrative reports, what I would ask for council, kind of like we did last time, Jim has got some pretty in-depth information. So what I would ask you to do, so he doesn't get kind of off track, is if you have questions as he's talking, write those down, but let him get through the presentation. And then after you finish the presentation, then that's when he can answer any of our questions. But let's hold your questions so we can get through this, if you would. And with that, I'll turn it over to you, Ms. Clifford.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And as the slides are getting queued up now, it's my intention, at least as we go through this cleanup operation, to give a weekly update, whether it's in a study session or council meeting, an update. Some of them will be more in depth than others, and certainly early in this operation, the updates are going to be a little more comprehensive. But as we really get all of the lines of effort moving, that'll be less every week, because we're just going to do highlights of here's where the cleanup occurred, or answer specific questions we have from council in the previous week that we need to research. But this one will be a little more comprehensive, and potentially the next one as well. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and go to the next slide, please. So what you'll see me do is take some of these slides you're going to see every week. This is to keep us on track, make sure we have our end states and what we're really focused on. And then what I did here on this slide, changed some things. One is under line of effort 3 for public safety. It previously read assist power crews with lane closures. We added tree crews because there may be some opportunities there where we have to get some public safety involved to make sure that we're not having tree crews exposed to vehicles. And then under communicate, I think we're doing those things now, but I also wanted to highlight for you as the council, when we were going through with Dominion, with all of our partners, when it came to power restoration in the first 2 weeks of this crisis, we were trying to get something out on our Facebook page every 2 to 3 hours. And what we're going to be doing here from here on out is to do at least a daily update for our citizens on the city Facebook page. But I would not expect to see the density of information that came out during the power restoral, but we will be posting updates daily on the status of things, at least Monday through Friday. So just wanted you to have that as a change. So if you were expecting to see something morning, afternoon, and evening, the frequency will certainly go down. Next slide. I believe we had this slide on here as well, but I'm going to talk a little bit about what this is, but I'll have a series of slides that will show you in depth what we're talking about here. And so there's lots of different elements that are in play for the removal of debris. So everything that's a state road is going to be done through SCDOT, and that's not at our direction. So we can ask SCDOT to focus their contractors on certain parts of town, but ultimately I do not have the ability as your administrator to tell them, hey, pull crews from here and put them here. So we can ask, but we cannot direct. For county roads, we are going to have Aiken County's already entered into a contract with SDR, Southern Disaster Recovery. And so those county roads, likewise, we can ask to make sure those are addressed, but those are not at our dictation because that contract is not with us. Then we're going to have city roads, so using the same Aiken County contract, also with SDR and Tetra Tech, we're going to be able to focus our efforts on city roads, and those are roads we're going to be able to focus on and give directions about how we want those to be approached, and we'll talk a little bit about that. And their intention, at least talking to SDR, is that they want to start with 3 crews, complete crews, and then that will build from there. So much like Dominion's plan, where they started with a base number of crews inside the city limits, they'll build as time goes on, and so as we'll continue to get more assets on the ground as those become available. For city roads, and we'll show this on a later slide, we're going to be doing a first pass on a number of the city roads, but we likely will have to have SDR, the contracted option, come in behind us to pick up the larger pieces of debris, and I'll show you why that is. And then under city property and parks, that's going to be a mixture. We're going to have city crews doing the things that we can do, and then on the Greenway, we've had a lot of people and a lot of church groups have asked, and running groups asked, to do volunteer work on the Greenway. And the shorter answer is, that's not allowable based on liability to the city. And so there are things that church groups and other groups can do for private citizens, and we would certainly encourage you to help your neighbors out and to backhaul debris if that's what's in your heart. But ultimately, we cannot have volunteer groups doing city property. And our plan for the Greenway is to be able to do a contracted option, likely SDR, to be able to move forward on the crews themselves on the Greenway. And then also residents can still do a self-removal option, and we've had multiple meetings with Aiken County and also with the City of Aiken, and we've all aligned in that everybody's saying the same thing, in that there is an Aiken County landfill, which I'll show you on a future slide, and that's where we're going to encourage our citizens to go to. If they want to do self-backhaul, they can do that. And then also we have a slide about the overhanging trees and what we're going to do about trees that have fallen on private property and what that looks like depending on the different scenarios. Next slide. So On the left-hand side, there in our Murph yard, that's a picture of one of our city yard debris trucks. It's a single axle rear truck. Its boom has a certain capability. It's got a certain gross vehicle weight rating, and it can pick up a decent amount of debris. But as you've gone through some of the neighborhoods, in Hammond Hills in particular, you see the size of the tree trunks that are out there. That truck cannot pick up those trees. And so when you look to the right, that's an example of a contracted group and the tree trucks that they're going to be bringing to the fight. And so those trucks have a higher gross vehicle weight rating, they have higher boom capacity, and they can haul more equipment and more debris coming out of there. So ultimately, that is going to be what's going to carry the day for us on the large piles that are in our most heavy hit neighborhoods. So you may see examples of where a city crew came through and addressed a number of piles and left things behind. That was intentional. And I'll go through some of the guidance that I gave our staff about why that is. And just because a city truck has gone through a neighborhood doesn't mean that that neighborhood is considered complete. We may look at that as a neighborhood that have a contracted option come in behind the city crew. So this is really improving the roadways in some areas. And there are some neighborhoods that the city crews are going to be able to completely do, but a lot of the neighborhoods we're going to have to touch are going to be an initial pass with a follow-up through SDR or contracted option. Next slide, please. This is my guidance to the staff. So unlike the power restoral operation, we basically got our hands around Belvedere and helped coordinate with the National Guard and State Guard, Dominion Energy, AEC, a number of different agencies, and we're able to assist Belvedere mostly because of geography, and we were closer to the problem, and we assisted where we could. And we had assets that we could put against those problem sets. We're not going to be doing that with the yard debris removal or the street debris removal plan. We are not going to be touching Belvedere because that's covered under Aiken County's contract. And so contractually, I cannot take a city contracted crew and put them in Belvedere. They have to work on city streets. And likewise with our own city crews, we will not be putting them out of town. They'll be working strictly in the city limits. The other thing is we've had this question from a lot of citizens. So we are doing some debris pickup. People have been putting out refrigerators and freezers and whatnot. And we have one crew that's assigned to do the larger pickups. But we are not going to be doing over the next 90 days the normal yard routines. So people that are raking their yards or doing whatever else, and they expect, hey, I'll see a city truck every week or every other week. For the next 90 days at a minimum, we're going to be focused exclusively on clearing roads and getting large debris piles out of people's front yards. We've dedicated 2 full-time crews out of sanitation to work this mission. That helps us from a FEMA perspective because FEMA requires you to track your hours, track the gasoline, all those things. So when you start interspersing crews that are doing city work and then FEMA stuff work, that gets very hard from an accounting perspective. So 2 of our crews are completely dedicated to debris removal. It's all they're doing. So every time we do a timesheet for them, that's going to be a pure FEMA reimbursed timesheet that includes overtime. I've also asked for voluntary overtime for our city debris crews. So they've asked, and I've granted permission to work 6 days a week. I don't know how long they'll be able to do that for, but that's what we're going to start with. And that's more than they normally do, but we're not doing compulsory overtime. We're doing voluntary overtime. And then we have a limited number of assets. So we have a limited number of city boom trucks. And I'm not going to risk breaking a city truck down for the excess of 1 to 2 weeks to get a boom repaired and lose all the momentum that we could do on the smaller piles. So some people may be a little irate and say, well, I just saw the city truck drive by this pile over here. If the crews feel like that is going to be a risk to the truck, they're not going to pick it up. We're just going to mark it, and we're going to know that a large contracted company is going to come in behind us to hit those piles at some point in time in the near future, but maybe not with that city truck. Because, again, if we take a truck offline for 1 to 2 weeks, we're going to lose forward momentum on a lot of other roads. And, again, we've had a lot of interest groups talk about the Greenway. Unless otherwise directed, roads are a priority over the Greenway right now. That's where we're going to be putting our efforts. We're also going to pull trucks off for assigned missions for life, health, safety. That was kind of the key watchwords in dealing with Dominion and AEC. In order for Dominion and Aiken Electric Co-op to make the progress that they did in the time that they did, if we yanked them off of their routes just because I had one citizen say, well, I want you to do this, we wouldn't be where we are today. And so ultimately, if we have a life, health, safety issue that involves debris, like, hey, I can't get a fire truck through this intersection anymore, then we're going to address it either with a city crew or a contractor crew to handle that. But if we whipsaw crews throughout the city to do smaller projects, we're not going to get any kind of momentum on the larger ones. That's going to take the overall project a lot longer. So the goal for this is to get this done as quickly as possible for everybody. And then my goal, and I believe the council's goal, is to achieve as close as possible 100% FEMA reimbursement. So we want to be able to operate within that first 90-day window, which will start this week, from FEMA's perspective, to be able to get as much reimbursement as possible, which means we have to do a lot of accounting and a lot of strategy that's associated to make sure that we're going to be reimbursed and not make decisions early in this process that will not be reimbursed. So we don't stick with the city or our taxpayers with a bill that is going to be hard to pay down the road. Next slide. So I want to describe the problem for you and for our citizens. And maybe you probably have a better shot there in your packet, but for our citizens at home, you can see on this map very clearly there's a lot of blue road and a lot of red road. You also have some yellow and gray road in there, but blue and red are the predominant colors on this map. Red roads are SCDOT roads. So Hammond Hills in particular, with some minor exceptions, Hammond Hills is almost exclusively South Carolina DOT roads. And then you can look at some neighborhoods that are exclusively City of North Augusta roads, like the Rapids. The Rapids is a good example of a neighborhood that is purely city. So you will not see a mixture of crews in there. You're going to just see city crews in the Rapids. Same thing with Hammond's Ferry. Same thing with Shoreline Drive. They're in the River Club. And then also River North are also city only. But a lot of other neighborhoods are a mix of blue and red roads. And so I'm going to take a minute and go through a couple other slides to highlight where you may see different levels of progress in the exact same neighborhood. And so I just don't want our citizens to get frustrated and go, how come my street got forgotten about, or why is this way? So I want to give you the why, so you're armed to deal with our citizens from an information perspective, and so our citizens can see what it is we're doing here. Next slide, please. Here's an example. This is by North Augusta High School. You got blue and red roads. So I put city crews on Lodgepole, Curtis, and Law Lobby Court early on this past week, or last week, I should say. And they got a good amount of work done in that neighborhood. And everybody around them is probably going, well, what's happening here with everything else? So this neighborhood around North Augusta High School, you can see has red and blue parts of the neighborhood. And so I can put some city crews to work in there, but SCDOT will work this at their own pace and start where they start. And I'll talk that a little bit later, but just wanted to highlight even something around the Colonel Leroy Hammond Park there. It's bounded by different color roads. So a couple sides of the park might be done and one side of the park might not be done, or at least not on the same timeline. So just understand that when we are approaching a problem set with our contracted crews or with our city crews, we're focused on the blue roads. SCDOT is focused on the red roads. Next slide. Here's another example. So this is for Savannah Barony. That's a county road. So coming off West Martintown Road and going up towards Old Plantation, those are county roads. I can't tell you what the timeline for the county road is. So you may very well run into a situation where Savannah Barony's neighborhood, may be picked up first, the blue roads, but still have to drive through a bunch of kind of mountains of debris on the sides of the road, on the county roads, and be like, well, the city crew was already here. Why didn't they just pick up this other debris since they were already here? That's because it's a different contract. And again, we as a city are not going to get reimbursed for FEMA money on things that are not contracted within the city. That's a county contract, and so we don't want to overpay something, to the tune of hundreds of thousands of dollars, and then have to cough that up out of the general fund. So there's a reason why you may have different rates of completion within the same neighborhood. But this is a good example of a county and a city road network that go together. And we'll see what that looks like as we go forward. Next slide. So right now what I've got the city crews focused on is I had them around North Augusta High School, and now I've got them working on the downtown corridor to prep for Jacqueline and Jubilee. There's a lot of work that still has to happen in the downtown corridor, and if they somehow get that finished this week, then these 4 areas that are circled in green, kind of around the I-20 corridor, are going to be their next line of effort for the city crews. And the reason why I have them focused on those 4 areas is those were all newer neighborhoods that were clear-cut neighborhoods with smaller, immature trees. And so all of those neighborhoods don't have the kind of piles that you'll see in Hammond Hills or the Rapids. And so our assertion at this point in time is the city crews that we have can likely get those neighborhoods 100% clean of yard debris with the assets that we have in hand. And so that's where I'm going to focus on going into the next week. Next slide. So this is very big picture, but as we get SDR and Tetra Tech online for our city contract, based on feedback we got from South Carolina Forestry, from SDR, from our own crews that are out working the neighborhoods, what we've seen is that the hardest hit neighborhoods, not to say that neighborhoods on the other side of Martintown weren't hard hit, but the hardest hit neighborhoods were between Martintown Road and the river. That's where we see the greatest amount of damage and debris. And so my intention is to have SDR, the contractor crews that are going to work the city, start at Savannah Barony and work south from there. So they would hit that first, then they would hit the next neighborhood down on Martintown, which I want to say is that Chanticleer? Or, Chanticleer, and then the Rapids, and then work their way south from there. So as we have 3 crews that will start with SDR, that's their marching orders is to start on that side of the town and start working south from there. As we get additional crews that come online, we'll give them updated guidance about where we want those crews to start, and I would likely nominate some of the neighborhoods that are Hidden Hills or the neighborhood behind North Hills Shopping Center because those have some significant tree debris in their neighborhood as well. And so as I get other assets that come into the area, that's likely where I'll start. But for the 3 crews that we get on the ground first, that's the current priorities of work that I have set for those crews. Next slide. So what have we been up to? So I wanted to show you some of the things that are already ongoing. So as of today, we had crews starting to work West Avenue. That's going to be today and tomorrow to get that prep for Jacqueline and Jubilee. You can see the report that we had for Curtis, which is over by North Augusta High School. And then Lodgepole is complete, at least according to Public Services, and got through all the debris that are out of the road. That does not include the park. So just to be clear, if you look in the park there at North Augusta High School, there are trees down all over the place inside that park, but the roads are cleared. So we're going to have a separate effort to get after the park space, but the road in that area is cleared, and certainly with the traffic we have at North Augusta High School, it was important for us to attack the road networks around there very early. Next slide. This is also what folks have been up to. So this is really in our downtown corridor, and you can see Georgia Avenue was the focus, and we had a lot of overhanging limbs and trees that got damaged there. And what we didn't want to have is people doing JOJ, walking under trees and having tree limbs end up falling on them during the festival. So we've spent a fair amount of time with the Public Services crew, property maintenance, to work on Georgia Avenue. And then that far left picture you can see is them trying to handle things around Calhoun Park. Next slide. So within Parks and Rec, just kind of wanted to lay out what we have that we think are open at this point in time, where people can congregate, and not everything is 100% complete. So for example, Maud Edenfield Park, people can't use the pavilion that's over there because it was crushed by trees. But they can use the tennis courts, they can use the basketball court, and they can use park equipment. And likewise, Walnut Lane was, park and playground was fixed. That picture I had to pull out of there, but there was a large tree that was across the playground. They were able to remove that tree so the children can still use that playground now. And then we're going to focus on JOJ activities for this week coming up so we can have a successful event this coming Friday and Saturday. Next slide. So I also wanted to talk about the damage you can see and damage you cannot. So on the left-hand side there, that's a fairly current picture of the Maud Edenfield Park pavilion that's over behind the community center. And as you go in there and take a look, I mean, you can see the structural damage, not just to the roof, but to the actual columns that have shifted. So there's no way we can put anybody into that structure. And I'll be curious to see what insurance says, but I suspect that's going to either be a complete loss or require major rehabilitation. And then you go over here to Beck Park and you see the pavilion there, and people look at that and go, there's nothing wrong with that. And at first glance, you could probably agree. I don't see any major visible damage to the Beck Park pavilion. However, when we had the state guard here, which brought with them a contingent of PEs, professional engineers, much like Tom Zeser, people that are structural and civil engineers, they looked at this facility and said, this is not a workable facility. And the reason for that is because the ground underneath that facility has started to give way. And so the fabric and the things that hold the soil underneath that whole concrete pad there is starting to erode in a significant manner associated with the storm. And so until that is addressed, that facility cannot be used. It would be a risk to the general population to stand on that facility and then have at some point in time it slough off and then have part of the concrete give way. So until we do some remediation efforts, that has to be off limits at this point in time. And just like the Mount Edenfield Park Complex, we have to go through an insurance adjuster. We have to go out there, have them do an assessment, see what they think of that situation as well. We're going to provide them the engineering reports that we have from the State Guard, and then they'll make their own assessment about what that's going to take to remediate it and to fix it. But I just wanted you to have some visibility on that because people will look at this and go, hey, you're just throwing yellow tape around this building for no reason. And the reason is because the damage is on the underside of the concrete pad, not necessarily to the facility itself. Next slide. So good news, these are pictures from today. So we asked SCDOT to get started on Hammond Hills. That was our hardest hit neighborhood, and we asked them to start there. But based on the location of their debris yard, which is at the corner of Knobcone in Martintown, they decided to start by the high school. And since that was also a hard hit area, we didn't fight them on it and said, okay, we'll go get it. And so top left picture there is at Courtney and Lodgepole, and then the bottom picture there is on White Park. So that's, again, you can see the size of the trucks that we're talking about are much larger than the city crew trucks, and they're able to get those larger debris piles in ways that we can't do with the city crew. Next slide. We'd also like to encourage our citizens to do debris drop-off if they so choose. So it says Aiken County on there, and that's true, but they'll also honor a North Augusta address on your South Carolina driver's license. And so ultimately, from Monday through Saturday, 7 to 5, at the Barton C&D landfill, there's no charge for residents to drop off debris. And so if you got a pickup truck or you got a small trailer and you want to make a crack at your own yard or some of the things in front of your house and you want to do that, by all means, help yourself. And you can take things to the landfill. As long as you got a South Carolina driver's license in Aiken County or North Augusta, good to go. Next slide, please. And so just to give you an idea of where this is in the vicinity of behind the Aiken Tech College there off Route 1. You can get there a couple different ways via Scoggin Lake Road or on the Jefferson Davis Highway. But really, you're talking about 11 miles from our location to be able to get to the landfill to be able to backhaul your own stuff if you're so inclined to do. Next slide. So Kelly's going to give me a hand on this slide, but we looked at 5 different scenarios about what this looks like when you got damage to your house or property or your property damaged the city property. So one is you have city trees that fell on your yard and crushed a shed or damaged a shed or damaged a garage. That's a homeowner's insurance claim. That's under Act of God provisions within your insurance. And the city will not remove those trees. The city is not going to remove the stuff. That's between you and your insurance company, and then that's you as a homeowner getting a tree company to pull that tree off, and that will be an insurance claim between the insurance company and the homeowner. The next thing that happens is if you have a city tree that just off the greenway just plops into your backyard and just lays there, the city's not going to remove that tree. You have the ability as a homeowner to remove that tree or to cut it up or do whatever you want to do, and you can file an insurance claim, but the city is not going to remove that tree. Then we also have reports of city trees that are leaning. So we got a lot of leaning tree reports. Hey, this tree is out of a easement or on the greenway, and it's now leaning across my backyard, and I'm worried about what it's going to do, not what it has done. So if you have a leaning tree, we'd ask you to report. People are reporting a lot of different ways. Some of them are reporting to you as council members. Some of them are going through the website. It'd be easiest if you went through the city clerk, Jamie Paul. That number is there on the screen to be able to do that. We have one master list right now, spreadsheet that is all of the reported tree hazards that are in the city. And as we get those reports, we send Roy Kibler, our certified arborist, to go look at that tree and say, okay, is this a tree that is leaning? Is it a tree that needs to be dealt with in the future? or is this a tree that needs to be handled like right now? And so after we make a determination about that tree, then the city will come up with a plan on the removal of that tree, either through a contracted option, or a city crew option. The next scenario is, hey, you have a tree, and we had a discussion, I think, at a previous council meeting where you got a tree and it falls into like a sewer easement or something like that. We're going to handle that. So anything that's in the city property, now what we may end up doing is just chainsawing that thing on the city property line. And if you've got tree stuff on your part of the property and it came out of your yard, that's a homeowner problem, not a city problem. But if it falls into an easement area, then the city's going to handle that problem. If it's in a sewer easement or a water line or whatever else, we're going to handle those issues. And then also you've got an example of, hey, you've got a house that backs up against the greenway and the tree fell off the greenway and crushed your back fence as it fell into your property. We're going to remove the tree from the city property and we're going to repair the city property. So if it was a city fence that was in your backyard, we're going to fix that. Not if it's a homeowner fence, but a city apparatus or city fence, we're going to fix that. And likely not remove the entire tree, but at least a portion of the tree that affects that fence. So what I'm planning on doing, and Kelly, I've done a lot of talking, but if there's anything you wanted to add that I may have missed on this slide, please by all means inform the council.
No, I mean, basically you've covered it. I think the thing you just need to be aware of, that in a situation where you have damage from trees as a result of an act of God, there's not a liability issue. It's wherever that tree falls, wherever the damage is, whoever incurs that, it's theirs. And that's totally different than it would be, 3 months ago, if somebody had a tree in their yard that we had a little bit of breeze and it fell down and fell on the neighbor's house, then they may have some liability because they should have been aware of problems with trees on their yard. But where you don't have that and it's an act of God, wherever the damage is and the result is, if it's on city property, that's the city's problem. If it's on private property, that's the private owner's problem.
And also just to be a reminder based on previous slides, we're trying to get to 100% reimbursable from FEMA. So if we go out there and start pulling trees off of private property that are not required to be pulled off based on the rule of law, we would have the potential to incur that cost. And if it costs $10,000 to $15,000 to do a tree, you multiply that across a couple hundred residences, you can see what that bill would look like. So we've got to make sure that we've got a good strategy going forward to be able to remediate a lot of these tree problems. That doesn't mean they won't have one-offs and things we're going to have to look at in its totality, but understand that right now the big thing we're trying to do is a race against time, and that's to do the 100% FEMA reimbursement, which is for the first 90 days. After that, they'll reimburse at a lesser rate. So we want to get the max volume of tree debris and yard debris out of the roads and off of our parks and out of the greenway as possible, and we can deal with niche issues as they come up, but we're trying to get the majority of the problem set done early. So again, you may have a constituent and they'd say, hey, I've got this one very specific issue. I really need y'all to come and do something about this. And again, if it's not a life, health, safety issue, we want to maintain our crews on the mass of the problem to get the most amount of work done the very soonest that we can. Next slide, please. And again, not a new slide to you and it hasn't changed from last time, but this is where we view our end state. Next slide. Mr. Mayor and Council, that's my update as far as storm debris removal, and I'm prepared to answer any of your questions at this time.
I don't have a question per se. I just want to say thank you again for the work you and JD and the rest of the staff's been doing during this. I know we're not done yet, but I mean, having a plan in place like this is great, and hopefully by the time Thanksgiving, 1st of December rolls around, we'll look like nothing ever happened. So thank you and I know none of the staff members are here, but just thank you to all of y'all for your hard work during all of this.
Let me get a clarification about the sanitation piece. So if a citizen sees our boom trucks that would normally come to pick up their yard debris, that is strictly for the debris that the 2 crews that we have earmarked. So we aren't going to get calls from citizens saying, well, my normal trash did get picked. I mean, so I'm saying we're not picking up. Eric was saying he got a truck at his street. It got picked up for your normal.
So we're not, to be clear, Mr. Mayor, we're not picking up yard debris on the normal schedule. However, if large items like a refrigerator is getting put out curbside, we have 3 total crews for sanitation, 2 of which are detailed specifically for yard debris. One of which is kind of a floater crew, which is going through the normal route, not stopping at every house. But if they see a refrigerator, they see a large item, something you put out there that's not yard debris, that's metal, or just trash in general, they're going to take that item. They're just not going to be able to do it at the rate that we have in previous months.
But in general, people should not expect their normal yard debris to be picked up, except for the 2 crews that are going to be picking up what they can pick up.
That's correct.
And
Get
like,
clarification on
let me clarify that too. So the debris pile by our house was like small limbs. So our truck was able to grab it.
Yeah.
But if you drive down the street, I mean, there's still big, huge logs and things. So people know they are making that effort. But again, I know exactly what you're saying, Jim. They're limited. And so, if you've got a big trunk, I mean, our trucks can't pick it up, but the smaller stuff, they did go through our neighborhood today. This is our trash day. And they picked up the smaller debris piles that they could.
And as far as roads are a priority of the Greenway, but we are still at some point going to work toward trying to get a contract to work in the Greenway, but we're not going to pull our city folks to do that.
Mr. Mayor, that's correct. Number one, the city crews do not have the equipment. And I would tell you that I spent a fair amount of time with the State Guard one afternoon when we had a general officer come to visit and wanted to see his soldiers in the field. And we went down to the loop at the Greenway near your residence. And the amount of time, I mean, these are very experienced people that do disaster relief stuff and have heavy duty equipment and chainsaw, all the right kit. And they were moving at a glacial pace down that pathway because of just the density of debris that's out there. And so what I view this as a contract action. So with the 3 initial crews that we're planning on getting from SDR, we're going to keep them on roads. What I would envision in our discussions with SDR is that they will probably have a crew that is better suited to the Greenway, and that could be the 4th crew that shows up. It could be the 7th crew that shows up. I'm not sure when they're going to arrive at this point in time, but when they have a crew that's designed specifically for that stretch, we're going to put them on the Greenway mission, and then we're just going to let them be. And then they're going to be dedicated completely to doing the Greenway as we go forward.
And just for citizens, I mean, there's plenty of the Greenway still. So if you go to the loop, which is what Jim's talking about behind the baseball field, half of that loop from San Salvador or Fairfield, that's open all the way now down the Cypress from the activity center. And then you talk about everything down by the river.
Yep, by the river
so
and the
it's
golf
not,
course path.
You may not be able to get on your bicycle and get used to your 15-mile, but for the average citizen, I can assure you, you can still walk several miles easily on the Greenway. So it's not like it's thing. So just understand, Greenway is still available. I've seen a lot of people. I'm walking, a lot of people doing it. So it's still there, right, Jen?
It is, and I would say I would 100%.
Right?
We're still planning our Palmetto Peach race. We'll see how that goes with the half marathon, but yes, there's plenty of room to run and get out there. And as much as I would love to move the Greenway up on that priority list, I completely understand that the roads are the most crucial point at this point. So, but there are routes, and if people have questions, feel free to contact me. I can get you probably up to 10 miles somewhere. So just let me know.
Now, I've seen like the debris, but right beside it are fence, old wooden fences that maybe fail or iron tight. That's not listed as debris.
Councilwoman, just to be clear, for FEMA reimbursement purposes, it's only the tree and wood debris. They will not take construction debris. They will not take roofing shingles. They will not take, your old fence. All that kind of stuff is like the normal to try to be able. And by the way, if you had a contractor that did work for you and just hauled it to the side of the road, like you should have your contractors backhaul that equipment if you want it out of your yard any kind of reasonable amount of time. Because the yard debris crews are not allowed to, by FEMA rules, to commingle or intermingle construction debris, metal, or anything along. Matter of fact, there's a reason why we have 2 separate contractors, because you have one contractor who's SDR who's actually doing the picking up of the debris, and you have a separate contractor who's getting paid to basically watch that operation to make sure they're not picking up things they ought not to pick up.
And I think one of the things, just to let folks know that we'll be putting out there, I think will be important, because you may not be able to see it, is, designating, understanding the red roads are SCDOT, the blue roads are city. I think the one about the high school is a perfect example. White Bart, Knob Cone are DOT roads, okay? But there's Torrey, you live, and you got the city truck. So tell Jim, if you would, because this is an interesting point, tell about how this is very unique compared to our surrounding communities, because they're going to hear a lot of stuff about what Augusta, Columbia County, it's a different animal.
It certainly appears to me that when I look across the river in Columbia County, Georgia, and Augusta, Richland County, it's a different construct. And so I'm not as familiar with the legal underpinnings of how Georgia DOT operates within the cities and counties over in Georgia, but it certainly seems that they're getting just large bulk contracts. Interstate highways are probably not part of that, but it would appear to me that they're just getting one large bulk contract and they're just moving out and doing what they're doing. Whereas in our case, we've got, city, county, and state roads all in the same municipal boundaries. It's 3 different groups of people, doing similar type work, but it's not exactly synchronized on when those things are going to occur. So it's a little more complicated on this side of the river, and that's okay, because we're still going to get the job done. But I just want our citizens to understand, hey, you're going to look at these neighborhoods and go, I don't understand why you did this part of the neighborhood, but not that part of the neighborhood. Everybody's going to get gotten to. It's just a matter of by which group of people are going to get to you and under which timelines.
Jim, and something Pat just brought up, with old fence posts, things like that. There are several of the landscape companies that are, of course they're charging, but there are several companies that are out there, doing that kind of debris removal. If people want to, contract with them, to get it done quicker.
Absolutely.
That is an option. I know one of the landscapers that works in our neighborhood, he's been posting that, hey, we'll do debris removal. So there are companies out there that will do the stuff like you were talking about, Ms. Pat, to get rid of it a lot quicker if people don't want to wait for that.
And that's totally a good option. And again, that kind of goes in line with the option of using your own pickup truck to take things out. But just understand for the citizens that is not a reimbursable expense by the city. So if you enter an agreement with a landscape company to backhaul waste out of your yard or your old fence or whatever else, that is strictly between you and that landscaping company. You're not going to come back to the city with a bill and say, I'm going to be reimbursed for this now, because the answer is no.
Other questions? I think it's important for this council, as our role as we move forward, some of the other one is, hopefully all y'all comfortable, but people need to know how to get in touch with the 7 of us. Okay, and we put our cell numbers out there. So your best bet is get in touch with us so we can put that into where it needs to go. And Jamie's number is going to be ideal also. But I thought the communication piece when we had the storm was fantastic, and we want to continue that. So anyway, any other questions on that? Okay. This is a little segue, and I'm going to embarrass her, but I think it's important. We had a citizen, very nice, wrote Jim a email concerning conversation, a situation he had with one of our employees, Miss Jamie Paul. I just want to read this because this is in the middle of a 2-week period where it's just crazy. I write this assuming you would want to know about an employee who is an asset to your department. There's so much going on in everyone's lives right now, lots of worries and stress. I can't even imagine what you have had to deal with the past couple of weeks. It's been said when it rains, it pours, and that is absolutely what's happening to me. I won't bore you with all the details, but I'm 75, I live alone, have been diagnosed with stage 4 cancer, had to leave my job, so no wages. Helene provided me with some new challenges with 7 down trees and 1 on the house, not to mention 7 days without power. After trying to contact everyone in the country down to the librarian, your city clerk, Jamie Paul, telephoned me, very compassionate, kind, and knowledgeable, calmed my fears and stress, and put a handle on my situation in one fell swoop. I will never forget the help she provided and can only hope that I be given the opportunity for someone what she's done for me. thought you might like to know. So those are the kind of folks we have working here in North Augusta Citizens. And I guarantee you they've all stepped up over the last 2 weeks for all of us. And I guess this would lead in, my last little thing is, I have bragged about this community for the last 2 weeks. Every interview I've done, one I'm going to do in a little bit, that citizens have helped citizens. You've stayed positive. You've shown resolve. Okay? We're in a second phase now. And I will tell you, this phase is not going to end in 2 weeks. So this, if any, my challenge, what we ask for this council is we need you to continue to do what you've been doing. We need you to stay positive. We need you to stay patient. We need you to continue to help each other. Use the resources we're going to give to you to help educate people. So on social media, if you hear someone asking a question that you know is improper, send them to our public information page. If you have somebody on social media asking a question about debris, send them to our information. We are going to give you the information you need. Just let us do it. I don't know what the numbers were, but in the last 2-week period, we had over 365,000 people use our social media, went through, and then over 38,000, what's it called? All right.
Insights.
What's it called?
So we picked up almost 4,000 new followers since the start of Hurricane Helene.
Thank you. So our challenge, this council, our commitment to you is we're going to be here to listen for you, get it to us. We can pass it up, but we have got a plan. This city has a plan, and we made the first plan work fantastic. We got a new plan here that Jim has just gone over that I think makes sense. So we will get through this. So we need you to stay with us, stay positive over the next few months as we work through this. And I tell you, we can make it happen. So anyway, that's my little piece there. We are now at item 15, which is presentation, communication, and recognition of visitors. So at this time, citizens may speak to mayor and city council regarding matters not listed on the agenda. Speakers shall give their name and address for the record. So I think I've got one here from Pamela Warren. Ms. Warren, I would think your question was answered. Did we answer your question? Okay.
I have 13 trees on my property from a proposed greenway that is just in an absolute jungle. No one's ever been out and touched it. I don't even know who owns it anymore. It's an 8-foot strip that I have 13 trees. Would you like to know what my estimate was to have them removed?
I can imagine. I can imagine.
$95,000.
Yeah.
Pat knows I retired from the school system.
Yeah.
I don't have $95,000.
Yeah.
And if I did, I would like to own that property.
Sure. Yes. Okay. I understand. So anybody's got a question about this agenda, what we talked, that's not on the agenda tonight? Yes, sir. Come on down. If you would, state your name and address for the record, if you don't mind.
Troy Robinson. I live at 902 Lake Avenue here in North Augusta, corner of Woodlawn and Lake.
Yes, sir.
Yellow house, white pergola.
Yep.
Giant tree over your road and your power line that's been there for a long time is changing. Just across from it, about 7 feet away, one of my trees fell across my yard, crushed the house in the backyard, my fence, if you know my house.
Oh, yeah.
All that had to come out. Now, that uprooted some of the roots from this giant tree and lifted the driveway that weighs, my understanding is that it weighs 2,500 pounds. And that's on this side of the tree, counterweighting that tree.
And what's that address again? Do you have
902 Lake Avenue.
Okay, we'll put that on the list. Okay, thank you.
It lifted that up. That concrete is not going to be kept there. It's all coming out
Right.
permanently.
Okay. Perfect.
So that tree is now more susceptible to falling over. It has no buffer from the other tree. And its roots are damaged, and there's not going to be a counterweight of 1.5 tons of concrete.
Perfect. Thank you for this information. That's exactly what we have the number for, so we can add. Thank you.
I sent a text message. That's why I spoke to you. Somebody sent a text message. Received no answer.
Well, I don't know who you would have sent text to, but we got it now. Okay, depends on who you did, but we're going to get you now. That young lady's got it. Okay. Well, it's a woman, but okay. Okay. Well, thank you for letting us know. That's good. Okay. All right. All right. All right. Any comments before we get out of here?
I just,
Two things. Early voting started today. Long lines. My gosh.
1,445 was today's count.
I mean,
1,445.
love it. That's awesome. Anyway, and then Jack-O-Lantern Jubilee is going to be Friday, Saturday. All that's on Explore North Augusta. It's going to be exciting. Great time to get out and dance and have a great time. Try to get a little bit of normalcy. So hope everybody will come out. Yeah, anything?
yeah, just wanted to let everybody know, y'all know my situation. November 4th will be my last city council meeting. We close on our house somewhere around the 8th, maybe the 10th. So that Monday should be my last meeting before I step down.
Letting us know. Anybody else? Ms. Pat, you good? All right. Jamie, I didn't miss it. It's everything, right? Okay. All right. Just thank y'all for, huh?
I was going to say that I was late because our girls' golf team was in the lower state tournament down in Hilton Head today. So I was a little late. We had one individual player make it to the state, and the team did. Phoebe Reese made it to the state, so she'll play next week. And the team did not make the cut, but they did a great job. I'm very proud of them.
That's great. Good. Awesome. All right. All right. We stand adjourned. Thank you.